Hello there, you're watching Channel 24 News live from Algiers. Let's have a look at the top stories. More than 3,400 dead as powerful quake hits southern Turkey and Syria. The World Health Organization has warned that the death toll could rise eightfold. Also coming up, President Tebboune sends his condolences to Turkish and senior counterparts, and Peoples and orders the departure of civil defense teams to take part in rescue and relief operations following the devastating earthquake. Five Palestinians have been killed in a Zionist army raid near Jericho in the occupied West Bank, also ahead in our news. And according to a survey by a Spanish media outlet, more than 68% of Spaniards consider Sanchez's recent visit to Morocco a failure. Hello again and welcome to the program. First in our topical news, massive earthquakes hit Turkey and Syria in the early hours of Monday. Thousands of people have been killed and others were seriously injured. Several people are still under the rubble of thousands of devastated buildings as rescue crews continue hampering to save them. The details with Hussam Ayati.
A huge earthquake killed thousands of people across a swathe of Turkey and northwest Syria on Monday, with freezing winter weather adding to the plight. Other many thousands left injured and homeless and hampering efforts to find survivors.
I told myself this should be the doomsday, without having the chance to think what we can do. The building collapsed on us. I was with my wife. My wife was trapped under me. I didn't hear from her for a very long time. When I finally managed to create a little bit space for myself, I saw her lying unresponsive. I stayed with her for more or less 3 hours.
The magnitude 7.8 quake brought down whole apartment blocks in Turkish cities and piled more devastation on millions of Syrians displaced by years of war. The worst tremor to strike Turkey this century came before sunrise in harsh weather and was followed in the early afternoon by another large quake of magnitude 7.7. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan declared 7 days of national mourning for the nation and urged flags to fly half-mast until February 12th evening.
We have received several calls for international aid to our country. Offer of assistance from 45 countries including NATO and the European Union have reached us.
Dozens of countries and organizations have offered to assist rescue efforts in southeastern Turkey and northwestern Syria after the earthquake disaster. A long list of international mobilization showed numerous offers of assistance since the early hours after the quake. This includes China, India and Russia, as well as many countries from the European Union, on top of which are Germany and Italy.
As a first step, we made €100,000 in emergency funding available, with which we will put together dressing materials, patient monitors, and oxygen concentrators, because we know of at least 2 hospitals which were affected.
The UN General Assembly held a minute of silence for the victims of the deadly earthquake in Turkey and Syria. President of the UN General Assembly, Csaba Kőrösi, extended his deepest condolences to the governments and the peoples of Turkey and Syria for the tragic loss of life and damage.
Still in relation to the ordeal, President of the Algerian Republic, Mr. Abdelmadjid Tebboune, on Monday sent messages of condolences to his counterparts, Syrian President Bashar al-Assad and Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, following the devastating earthquake that struck the two countries, causing thousands of victims and significant material damage. President Tebboune expressed Algeria's full support for the brotherly peoples in this trial time. President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmadjid Tebboune, on Monday also ordered to send civil defense and humanitarian aid teams to Turkey following the devastating earthquake that struck the region. The Minister of the Interior, Local Authorities and Territorial Planning, Mr. Brahim Arad, went to Boufarik Military Airport in Blida province, southwest of Algiers, the capital, to supervise the departure of the first civil defense group made up of 89 civil protection agents, doctors, and K9 squads bound for Turkey to take part in rescue and relief operations following the devastating earthquake that struck the country. According to the minister and the president of the Algerian Red Crescent, 3 airplanes are bound to Turkey. One departed this morning and another is preparing for takeoff as we speak, to be followed by the 3rd later on. One plane is transporting the civil defense agents and doctors and other rescue teams, while the other 2 are cargo planes laden with various kinds of supplies and aid.
As for today's aid, there are 3 planes. One plane went this morning quickly within the framework of the United Nations system. It should be arrived by now to Turkey. Currently, another plane carrying officers and civil protection agents is on its way, and 2 other planes carrying supplies and aid consisting of blankets, everything necessary, such as medicines.
Today, 115 tons of mattresses, food, medicine and tents were sent to the sister country of Syria, with a team consisting of more than 40 paramedics formed in the rapid response to disasters, in addition to the 95 tons of aid that will also go immediately to the sister country of Turkey.
In relation to the same story, Algerian Ministry of Foreign Affairs set up on Monday a crisis unit to follow up on the situation of Algerian community members in both Turkey and Syria. The unit was assigned full coordination tasks with the Algerian embassies in Damascus and Ankara and its general consulate in Istanbul. Earlier, Algerian Foreign Ministry had announced that no victims or injured were registered among members of the Algerian community residing in the 2 countries up until now.
What we have received from our embassy in Ankara and the Algerian General Consulate in Istanbul, as well as our embassy in Damascus, is that there are crisis units set up at the level of these centers and a careful tracking of the situation of Algerians there. And what we have learned so far is that no Algerian has been injured or died. We are continuously coordinating with the Turkish and Syrian authorities to track the situation of Algerians who are there.
And a different story, Algerian President Abdelmadjid Tebboune received on Monday Mr. Zweli Velil Mandela, the grandson of the former South African leader Nelson Mandela. The meeting, which took place at the Mouradia Palace in the Algerian capital, was also attended by the private principal secretary to the presidency, Mr. Abdelaziz Khalaf.
It is an honor and a privilege for me and all the family of Mandela to be here and meet the President of the Republic, Abdelmadjid Tebboune. And for us, this meeting is inspiring, and we are proud of it. We see Algeria as a country of revolutionaries and martyrs. During the meeting of today, we have expressed our loyalty to the souls of martyrs. We spoke like family members. We discussed the challenges that Algeria is facing and the ways that can build a partnership between Algeria and South Africa. What we have appreciated the most is seeing young people, the beating heart of the country.
The Algerian Interior Minister, Mr. Brahim Arad, has received his Palestinian counterpart, Mr. Ziad Mohammed Haberi, in Algiers on Monday. The Palestinian minister said that he conveyed a verbal message from the Palestinian President, Mr. Mahmoud Abbas, to his Algerian counterpart, Mr. Abdelmadjid Tebboune, confirming his commitment to President Tebboune's initiative to unite the Palestinian people, which culminated in the signing of the Algiers Declaration by the Palestinian factions.
Indeed, Algeria is the second country for every Palestinian without any doubt. And during this difficult juncture that we are living through, we carry a verbal message from President Abu Mazen to his counterpart, His Excellency the Algerian President Abdelmadjid Tebboune, in which he assures him once again of his interest and absolute conviction in the initiative of President Abdelmadjid Tebboune in order, God willing, to achieve Palestinian national unity. And President Abu Mazen is really interested in this issue. And therefore, through this historical juncture in which the Palestinian cause is going through, the first decision that was taken was to stress the importance of starting the national dialogue to achieve Palestinian unity.
Zionist forces killed 5 Palestinian resistance members in a raid on refugee camp in the occupied West Bank on Monday. The latest bloodshed in the region that will likely further exacerbate tensions. Here's Zahra Farjani's report.
The dire situation in the occupied Palestine is worsening more and more as the Zionist occupation intensifies its aggression against Palestinians. Monday witnessed the death of 5 resistance members during a raid on the city of Jericho in the eastern occupied West Bank. The large-scale raid took place in the Aqbat Jaber refugee camp, which has been under the Zionist siege for more than a week now.
This is a war crime, as the heavily fire targeted a number of young men who are present in this area. Today, the international community is obliged to ensure protection of Palestinian people, to bring the leaders of the Israeli occupation before the International Criminal Court to stand trial for these crimes, because these Palestinian inhabitants are defenseless and powerless.
The Zionist Defense Forces justified their attack as an activity targeting Hamas unit, which it said was behind the shooting operation a week earlier. The resistance group, on the other hand, vowed to continue their operations to stand against the brutal occupation and fight for the freedom of Palestine.
The resistance will remain despite the heinous massacre, and the battalions will continue their operation with all the revolutionaries among our people until the occupiers are defeated and get out of our land, Palestine.
Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas, while chairing a meeting of the Palestinian Security Services and Forces on Sunday, underlined the importance of continuing the peace approach of popular resistance and preserving the internal security of the Palestinian people, holding the Zionists accountable for the attacks and the continuous escalations against the Palestinian camps, villages and cities.
The United Nations mission in South Sudan condemned deadly violence in Kaji region in South Sudan's central Equatoria state that left at least 27 dead and several others were injured on February 2nd. Nicholas Haysoum, the UN's Secretary General's Special Representative in South Sudan, called on the authorities to urgently launch an investigation and hold perpetrators accountable.
This violence is unacceptable and was in sharp contrast to the message of the ecumenical peace pilgrimage to South Sudan, which called for peace and reconciliation.
The Malian Transitional Government said on Sunday that the head of the UN Peacekeeping Mission's Human Rights Division had 48 hours to leave the country as he had been declared persona non grata. According to the Malian Transitional Government statement, the decision of his expulsion was linked to his allegedly biased choice of civil society witnesses for UN Security Council briefings on Mali, the most recent of which was held on January 27th. According to opinion polls conducted by Sociometreca at the request of Espanol Journal on the popular impression at Sanchez's recent visit to Morocco, the survey shows more than 68% of Spaniards considering the visit a failure and didn't meet expectations. According to many observers in Spain and abroad, this is a strong indication that Sanchez's popularity is inevitably declining as a result of his many political faults, especially when Madrid failed to outline specific date with Rabat for the conversion of Ceuta and Melilla into exclusive Spanish customs territory. To the file on the Russia-Ukraine, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov arrived in the Mauritanian capital Nouakchott on Monday at the start of the African tour that will take him to several countries on the continent after his arrival. The Russian minister met with his Mauritanian counterpart Mohamed Salem Ould Marzouk. It is expected that the head of the Russian diplomacy will meet the Mauritanian President Mohamed Ould Sheikh Al Ghazawani at a later time before continuing his African tour. An Azov assault brigade of the Ukrainian army fired Soviet-era howitzer near Bakhmut on Monday as fierce fighting was raging in the town's north. The head of Russia's private Wagner Group said on Sunday that the fierce fighting was ongoing in the northern parts of the Ukrainian city of Bakhmut, which has been the focus of Russian forces' attention for weeks. Members of the United Nations Security Council called for Russia to end its war in Ukraine on Monday in a debate just weeks before its first anniversary on February 24th. United States Ambassador to the UN Linda Thomas-Greenfield said Russia's President Vladimir Putin could end the invasion by pulling his troops out of Ukraine and really allow for peace to take place, end quote. The West has imposed sweeping punitive measures since Russia's early or nearly year-old invasion of Ukraine that has devastated cities, killed tens of thousands of people, and forced millions to flee their homes. Kosovo police have stepped up patrols by rapid response units following ethnic tensions last December when local Serbs blocked roads to protest Pristina rule. The area is inhabited by some 50,000 local Serbs, but almost all police officers now are from the Albanian majority areas since November last year, when some 600 police officers quit their jobs over a car license plate rule.
We will not compromise the rule of law and order, the territorial integrity and sovereignty of the Republic of Kosovo, or the lives and wealth of citizens in that region. On these issues, there can be no compromise. We absolutely do not want another conflict in Kosovo.
France will face its third nationwide strike on Tuesday since the government presented plans to raise the pension age by 2 years, with unions representing many sectors also taking part. With more details with Islam Said.
Another nationwide strike looms ahead in France, following the government plans of last month to raise the pension age to 64. Many sectors across the country will possibly participate in the strike. According to officials, train and air services are expected to be heavily disrupted on Tuesday. Prime Minister Elizabeth Borne took a step on Sunday by offering a slight change on the government's plans as an effort to gain the support of conservatives in parliament. Inside the parliament, a stormy debate took part among MPs as opposition from the left and right denounced the proposed reform on Monday.
Of course, I think that the French people are right to protest, and I call on them to demonstrate on Tuesday the 5th, tomorrow and next Saturday, because it is the only thing to counter the government.
It is useless, unfair, and counterproductive reform. Everything must be done to block it. It's very simple. It cannot be justified, and there is an attempt to make the French feel guilty and afraid.
Thousands of people took the streets of France last month to protest over the issue. According to Labour Ministry estimates, the pension system reform would produce an additional 17.7 billion euros in annual pension contributions. Unions say there are other ways to raise revenue, including taxing the super-rich or asking employers or wealthy retirees to increase their contributions.
Health workers in Britain began their largest strike on Monday as tens of thousands of nurses and ambulance workers gathered demanding a pay rise that reflects the worst inflation in Britain in 4 decades. The government's response to the strike was that it would be unaffordable and cause more price rises.
Just listen. They're still not listening. They're still saying, you know, the NHS doesn't have the money to pay. Of course the NHS doesn't have the money. That's why we're here. We're here for everyone. The government needs to listen and discuss pay rather than just saying the NHS doesn't have money.
Moving on now, a second balloon was spotted over Latin America on Monday, which China says via its foreign ministry that it belongs to it, reiterating that the unmanned airship was derailed off its course due to bad weather. According to the Colombian Air Force and Costa Rica Civil Aviation Authority, the spotted balloon was similar to the one which was observed flying over the United States. The latter was shut down later on and, or let's say the US shut down the balloon later on, claiming that it was spying on military sites, while China confirmed it's a civilian vessel used for research. The forest fires raging in southern Chile since Thursday, causing the death of 24 people and destruction of 800 homes, including 10 people detained for their possible connection to the origin of the fires, according to officials. Therefore, international aid begins to arrive in the country as 260 fires are burning, of which 148 are likely already under control.
As a government, we're committed because we know that we owe it to our people. We have seen how the people help the people as well. They have our full support. We're going to mobilize all the resources that are necessary for this, and together we're going to get through this.
For more stories making headlines around the world, here's the news in brief by Salman Asib.
On Monday, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres told fossil fuel producers they should not be in business unless they are credibly aiming for net zero emissions, and warned that the world is walking into a wider war over Ukraine. He also presented his 2023 priorities and called for a new Bretton Woods moment, referring to the 1941 conference that led to the creation of the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. 8 individuals aged between 21 and 23 are accused of killing teenager Fernando Baez Sosa on January 18, 2020 in Villa Gesell. The crime sparked public outrage across Argentina. The prosecutors are former players with the Náutico Arsenal Zarate rugby club who have already testified in the trial, with evidence presented in court complicating the situation for the defendants. On Monday, heavy snowfall and plummeting temperatures hit the city of Athens. Snowstorm led to closing school and most shops, including many public services, and businesses switching to remote working, as authorities urged the public to avoid non-essential travel. Since Sunday afternoon, Spanish Coast Guards have rescued a total of 181 migrants for 4 different boats, according to the Canary Islands Emergency Services on Monday. A rescue vessel then transferred 51 migrants, 42 men and 9 women, to the Aguineguin port after they were found 100 nautical miles off the island of Gran Canaria.
Back to Algeria now. Many winter sports fans have found in the Tigda Mountains and Georgia Chains a perfect destination where they can have some fun and blow off some steam. The local visitors expressed their excitement and satisfaction about the services provided by local authorities there. Sofian Kanturi takes us in a tour.
Every year, especially in the winter, we visit this place because we feel comfortable and we find everything we need to enjoy the moment. Also, the government is working to create safe public play areas for our kids.
Weekends are the most popular days for tourists to visit Tigda Mountains, and most of them go there to get away from the bustle of the city.
This is the second time I have come here. This time we are experiencing a new adventure. We found a perfect atmosphere that allowed us to get some fresh air with our families and children.
We came here to Tigda to practice skiing and to play with other children who came to enjoy this beautiful place.
Skiing on snow is one of the most popular activities that people try once they arrive there. Many people are trying this sport for the first time in their lives, so indeed they need a skiing coach to show them how it's done.
First, we show people how to dress up the skiing equipment. Then we give them lessons to ski safely. Actually, to learn this sport, one needs at least 5 sessions.
Speaking about economy, local authorities have developed many facilities for outdoor activities and made the access to this area easier. Also, they provided hotels such as Tikshda Tourist Hotel, which receives tens of people from different areas weekly.
And finally in our news, on Sunday, one of Grammy Awards winners, Harry Styles, won the Album of the Year, taking home the top honor on a night that Beyoncé dominated and became the ceremony's most decorated artist. By the same occasion, Beyoncé won her 32nd award.
This album from...
Well, that would be the end of our news. For more, you can always visit our social media platforms. From me and the rest of the team, thank you for watching, and bye for now.